Hello everyone and welcome back to Genvièv TV. Today our topic covers how to defeat predators using hypnosis and why this is simply the fastest and most powerful approach out there. I realize most of you will, very likely, like I did a lifetime ago, join me here thinking, yes, this is exactly what I want. Mastering a technique that will be able to stop predators in their track and drop them lethally paralyzed on the ground like magic. And this is precisely what you will learn, but most likely not in the manner that you initially expected. In fact, in a much more radical fashion, because if we had to learn to defeat one predator after another, we would never end our battle simply because they are everywhere. They are in your romantic life, they are in your career life, they're in your social life, in your family circles, simply everywhere. Targeting them one at a time would be an endless battle and very much a waste of our time. So instead, what we work with is you. And what I teach each and every one of you is how to make yourself bulletproof to their actions, their reactions, and not only will it stop predatorial types, and that includes narcissistic NPDs, these are the malignant narcissistic personality disordered individuals, sociopath, psychopath, all the disordered individuals out there, that will stop their attempts from being in any manner, shape, or form successful with you, and also make you completely unattractive, repellent to NPDs. So that's much more simple and much more direct. That way you don't have to fight each and every one of them, which you would spend your life energy fighting. You simply work on yourself, become a fort, become bulletproof, and any of their attempts will bounce right off the shield surrounding you. So it's a direct and powerful manner to work with ourselves because, as always, as we learn in quantum physics, as we learn with the biology of beliefs, what we expect, we experience, and what we also know is our state transmits. And this is precisely why predators are so capable of destroying us, because they're basically programming us to self-sabotage, whether it is in early childhood with narcissistic caretakers that continuously break our image of ourselves, programming us to embark on a mission to self-destruct by believing that we're faulty, that we're not good enough, that we're not deserving of being here, and therefore we begin to encounter all the kinds of circumstances that this internal faulty programming set us up for, or what it's done in adult life by predatorial people in our circles, and especially those that are close to you. So romantic partners are very damaging when they are of the NPD type, of the predatorial type. They will destroy your self-esteem, your self-worth, and it will come easy and slowly, one step at a time, until you're so completely and utterly disheveled and dismantled that you begin to self-destruct. That's how they operate, and that's how they prevail. However, when we begin to learn how to use our mind, how to use our brain plasticity, our brain rewiring, to reconstruct our worth, our sense of self, our inner ability to nurture and protect and preserve ourselves, we begin to repair our foundations, we become stronger, and then we can implement shields to instantly deflect the attempts of predators. I've done that repetitively, so do check the testimonials in the description box underneath this video. You will find a lot of information about me, my websites, and also links to the reviews, the testimonials of those who have worked with me. They will give you their words in their words, because I'm not able to edit that in any way, shape, or form. They will give you the manner in which I work and the kind of results to be experienced. So years ago, I posted a blog article that I entitled Canine Hypnosis. And that was very revealing on how working with our state is capable of directly influencing the world around us, including animals. So this happened to me while I was in a veterinary center, and there was a dog there that was going into a state of absolute panic, being attempted to receive shots and various vaccination. The dog broke into a panic attack, and there was the entire staff there attempting to wrangle that canine subject that was fighting everybody. And as an emergency medicine first responder and as an emergency hypnosis first responder, I intervened. And what I did is I simply approached the animal, the dog, and I adore animals. So I have to say I have also a very easy connection and contact with them. But I approached the animal very close, looking straight into his eyes. I pressed a thumb on the yin-tan point in acupuncture that's known between the eyebrows there, looked straight into his eyes and placed myself in a deep hypnotic depth. I descended to the depth of hypnosis. So I do this every day with every person who works with me. So of course, as the more you practice something, the more fluent you become in that mastery. So I'm able, of course, to go in and out of hypnosis very rapidly within just a blink of an eye, and also to go very deep into that state. And as I descended, looking straight into the eyes of the animal, I brought the dog with me to the depth. So in literally the blink of an eye, he went from acute panic to complete analgesia, catatonic paralysis, basically holding on to my gaze. We both descended into that state. He became completely limp, loose, relaxed, and comfortable, totally immobile, as if he were in a coma, except for his eyes that were still staring deep into my eyes. And the staff was able to do all of the intervention on that canine, who was completely immobile, didn't even flinch at the shots or anything. So there was a complete pain, anesthetic, anesthesia, analgesia that took place into that state as well. And of course, the vet, the doctors wanted to hire me on the spot, saying, we need you here in the clinic. And that just simply demonstrated how placing ourselves in a state transmits. And when we're focusing our transmission into a specific individual, we will have an immediate and lasting effect on that. So after that point, of course, I started receiving various communications. After publishing that article that I entitled Canine Hypnosis, I received all these offers from Los Angeles, Hollywood studios that wanted me to come, fly me to their shoot and hypnotize a bulldog to surf. And so I attempted to explain to them they should read the article, and what I did was place myself into hypnosis. But that's just an illustration of how our state transmits, and especially with subjects that are in a state of panic. That's the whole basis of emergency hypnosis, is when we're in a state of panic, we will grab onto the first opportunity we have to experience relief. So in my practice, I specialize in working with states of trauma. I specialize working with those who are in very difficult and challenging life situations. And the technology and methodologies that I've developed with my team as well, working on myself as I was going through extremely abusive, and as you know from following my channel, life threats at the hands of very predatory individuals. I wouldn't have survived if it weren't for these methodologies that we implemented and experienced and researched with my team. So I'll give you a direct personal example of my own ability with my colleagues to work on myself and establish and develop a shield of protective energy in the face of very direct abuse. So that was in the midst of a decade of violent predatory abuse onto me from an NPD, a covert NPD, who had the habit of coming into my face and screaming at me for things that I had absolutely no control over, things that were of his comfort and his life that had nothing to do with me. And of course, when you are experiencing this kind of abusive behaviors, the normal reaction from yourself is to experience outrage and disbelief and try to rebel against that. And with predators, when they provoke you and you react, you lose your integrity and you accomplish absolutely nothing, because what they're seeking is a reaction. So you're actually giving them the fuel that they are seeking when they're attempting to traumatize you. So that's what we're all guilty of before we begin this work, is we react, which is normal, but it's counterproductive and it gives them power. So eventually I was working with my professor, colleague, and research teammate, and he was so angry and aggravated at what the abuse I was receiving that once we had placed myself in a state of hypnosis, he, with all of his outrage, decided to implement what he called a bullshit shield. And those were his words, because he was aggravated and angry and wanted to protect me. And so he implemented that bullshit shield while I was in hypnosis onto me, telling me that nothing from that predator will penetrate that shield any longer, and it will simply bounce right off the shield. So typically when I work with people, I call this a shield of protective energy, a light shield. My colleague that day called it a bullshit shield. He often gets very protective and very aggravated when he's working with me to protect myself from attacks. And so I walked away from this session thinking it was funny, that title, and not wondering what was going to happen from that. And just a few days later, I was sitting in my computer doing my work, minding my own business, and that predator came into my face and started screaming at me again, agitating his arms and acting as if he was going to shake me. And he was so in a typical fashion, I would have reacted with anger and outrage and shock and fear and just disbelief, and I would have given in to what they're seeking, is your reaction, to then counterattack and traumatize you. But I had this bullshit shield, and I was not even thinking about that at that moment in time. I was just working on my computer and being attacked. And what happened is I just looked at him, and I didn't feel any of his attacks. All I saw was this subject agitating himself, clearly giving me the demonstration that he was a disordered individual, because he was screaming at me because he was uncomfortable in his chair. That had absolutely nothing to do with me. I hadn't purchased the chair. I mean, the chair had nothing to do with me. And he was screaming at me, somehow trying to make me responsible for him being uncomfortable in his chair. And in that new state that I was in, following, maybe it was a week later or something like that, I tilted my head and I looked at him, and the dialogue that was going on inside my head was, wow, he's truly disordered. Poor guy. It's a good thing I'm not him. And all of this analytical disorder. And then it seemed suddenly so hilarious to me that, without trying to laugh, because he was screaming bloody murder in my face, literally, I was trying not to laugh, but my lips started twitching a little bit, and I started probably going something and trying not to laugh. And he looked at me, because it had been going on for a decade that he was abusing me like this. And he looked at me stupefied, saying, "Are you laughing?" And I literally broke into, folded in half, tearing, crying out loud, laughing, folded in half, from the hilarious, ridiculous aspect of the situation, and also from the accumulated stress that he had placed on me for 10 years straight. I had to remove myself from but his face was literally in stupefaction. He walked away, and I laughed for the rest of the day. I couldn't stop laughing. It was all that stress releasing from me. And what I saw in him was the shame of his actions suddenly being reflected onto him without affecting me, other than making me laugh like the funniest comedy that I had ever been given the entertainment of watching. And let me tell you, that was the last time that he acted that way, because he was put face to face with his own ridiculous behaviors. And so that's a very simple example of what we do when we work with hypnosis to restore your strength and make you bulletproof of predators, whatever types they are. I worked with a young woman who came to see me, beautiful and lovely, and she was trapped into a romantic relationship with an absolute classic textbook NPD, narcissistic personality disordered individual. And often, of course, as it is the case, when we begin to work at that level, the person or myself or everybody that's in that relationship, at the beginning there's so much denial because we've been so broken and so shattered and so put down that we no longer believe in ourselves. And I was telling her, you know, I can implement a disgust. That's what I do. I specialize in that, turning an addiction into a repulsion. I do that for substances and for breakups with people who are toxic, basically. But of course, very typical, she wasn't ready to let go of the abuser yet. She was telling me, what if it changes? So that's the typical denial that we're into. I said, fine, let's work on you. Let's restore your self-esteem, your foundations, your ability to believe in yourself. So we worked on her, and little by little, she started flourishing again. And eventually, there came a day where she contacted me and said, Genvièv, I'm ready now to work on disgust. I realize this person will never change. He's harming me and I need to move on. And we did the disgust one session, and she was done with him. That's very rapid, and that's lasting, and that's permanent. So she walked away from that relationship, and then we worked on implementing the attraction for the right relationship. That's something that we work on, and it works. It's magnificent. I have countless numbers of examples of those of us who have done that. Walked away from toxic relationship, rebuild ourselves, and attracted the right partner who is respectful and loving and kind and everything that we needed, basically. Today, this young woman is happily in love. She has started a new chapter with the new man in her life. They're living together. They're beginning their future together. It's magnificent. And I've done that also in corporate environment with a young man whose NPD in his life was a supervisor, constantly abusing him. So in his case, we took things differently. We shifted his emotions from outrage and rage, and he was so miserable for so long in that work relationship where he was constantly put down. So we switched that around to create a positive feeling, and within, I want to say, the matter of weeks, it was so fast, we basically were able to erase that problem. When you shift your energy, when you shift your feelings, when you change what you expect, the world around you changes. We know that. It's been proven by quantum physics and by the biology of beliefs and by constant research of working with our brain. So basically the supervisor was erased. She was transferred to another department and disappeared out of his life, and now he's working in a beautiful team that is peaceful and serene, and he's able to flourish. So I have countless examples of that. If you want to check them out, again, check the box below where you will find referrals and reviews and all the links to me. I do work one-on-one with people here in my center. I am a board certified forensic and clinical hypnosis instructor. I'm an emergency medicine first responder, and I am a brain plasticity and brain rewiring researcher. I'm a trauma survivor. Trauma is my research. And I work with all of you here at my center or at a distance via Skype. So again, I am on Instagram, I am on Google, I'm on LinkedIn, I am on Facebook, of course. I am everywhere on the internet, and you can find the way to contact me below here on the description box. I look forward to hearing from you. Do subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. What we're doing here is we're building a community of survivors and thrivers where we stand stronger together than we ever were before we found one another. So it's a beautiful community. Share your comments underneath the video. I'm also releasing recordings. I'm training you basically to do what I do yourselves. So I have an audio recording that you can place yourself in hypnosis all by yourself. It's also linked below. And I teach you how to do what I do so you can be rapidly empowered. I look forward to hearing from you, and thank you again for joining me. Always a pleasure interacting with each and every one of you. See you soon. Bye-bye.